From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie B.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Friday, November the 26th, TGIF, our last show ahead of Sunday's game, the Eastern semifinal against the Montreal Alouettes. And if you want to join us, you can go to ticats.ca/tickets, or you can listen to this podcast where later on I'll be giving you a keyword that you'll be able to enter an email to gameday@ticats.ca, and you could win a pair of tickets to Sunday's game. So our last pair, we've given away 4 pairs of tickets already, and we got one more, and I'll give you the keyword coming up later on in the show. It is a busy show, lots to get to. We're going to hear from Coach O, as we normally do. We're going to hear from Tunde Adeleke, named an East Division All-Star for the second year in a row. There's a ton of other scrums from today. It was a busy day at practice, so if you're looking for Chris Van Zyl or Jamal Roll or Carriel Brooks, you can go to ticats.ca and check out the full scrums. Of course, all 4 of those guys named East Division All-Stars as well. Big show, as mentioned. Very excited to be joined by the CFL and TSN'S Rod Smith, who is going to be in the booth for TSN on Sunday, and it'll be his first CFL playoff game as a play-by-play man. So very excited for Rod, so we'll talk to him about that coming up on today's show. I did want to give you a couple of injury updates that Coach did touch on after practice today. And I'll use the injury report kind of as a guide here. Mason Bennett suffering an eye injury. He did not practice. He has not practiced all week. Braylon Addison was activated off the 6-game injured list. He's been limited the last few days. The one I did want to let you know is that Jordan Murray was a full participant on Tuesday. He was limited on Wednesday, and he did not practice yesterday, and he did not practice today. So let me get that right. He was limited. He was a full participant on Tuesday. He was limited on Wednesday, did not practice yesterday, and did not practice today. Coach says it looks like it's going to be Travis Vorncall who will make the start at left tackle. So just an update there. Mike Daly's been limited, but Coach says it's unlikely that we see number 35 this week. Hoping if the Ticats can advance to the East Final, could see him there in Toronto. It was a cold, or it is, I'm still here, it is a very windy day at Tim Hortons Field, and it is chilly. And when we caught up with Coach after practice today, asked him about that, asked him about the conditions. He had joked that, this is what they had prayed for, and they got it. But I had to ask how it affects his game planning when he knows that the weather can just to be about anything come this time of year in Hamilton. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I'd be lying to you if I said it wouldn't have any implications, but you don't really know till game day. So it's nothing that you set in stone ahead of time. It's just something that you're prepared for in the event that something like that happens. So, and there's always the game within the game. So you're always going to evolve as the game goes on, depending on the situations. I think there's days that you execute great in practice. I think what I've learned in coaching is just because you execute in practice doesn't necessarily mean that you execute to the level that you want to in the game, and also vice versa. Sometimes you don't have the best practices and you go out and you light it up. But what we like to say is we don't want to leave anything to chance. We're not going to practice or celebrate sloppy habits. We're going to create great habits, and then we're going to try to go into the game like that. I would say that we just have a lot of different pieces. First of all, I think half of our football team is different, right? So, I think that other teams have, possibly improved in certain areas and whatnot. I felt like there was very few games that we weren't in, that we didn't have a chance to win, and I think that's always important. This is just a different journey for this year's football team. I know specifically you're saying, what was it? And I think in the beginning, it's just different pieces, and you've got to figure out your puzzle each year. There's no carryover from 19. I feel like, Winnipeg's kind of in that situation this year where we were last year. And, I'm excited. I feel like we have the right people, and now it is about execution. and going out and doing it on game day. But I think there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of injuries, just like every football team faces, that we had to overcome. I think we had to make adjustments as a coaching staff. And so we're going to have this opportunity this Sunday. So I'm excited, and I feel like we've done a decent job of just embracing things that have come our way.
That is the head coach of the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, Orlando Steinauer, as he spoke to us after practice today. And remember, you can always catch full scrums at ticats.ca. You can find bonus content as well, because there's a lot of players who spoke today and didn't have time for all of them. So if you want to hear from Chris Van Zyl or Carriel Brooks or Jamal Roll, just ticats.ca. And while you're there, you can pick up tickets for Sunday's game if you don't already have them, or you can keep listening, because I'm going to have a keyword for you coming up here in just a few moments. You'll get that keyword. You'll email it to gameday@ticats.ca, but not yet. I don't have it for you yet. Just stay tuned. I will let you know what that keyword is, just not quite yet. All right, want to get to another player here. This is Tunde Adeleke. Had a chance to catch up with him after practice today. And we started off by asking about being recognized as a CFL East Division All-Star for the second year in a row. And here's what he had to say.
It's just an honor to be recognized by people outside the locker room, because, there's a lot of things in the locker room, like obviously the coaches see and things that people on the outside don't see. So when it's like a CFL honor like that, it's what you do on the field, not just like at practice and things like that. So it's just an honor to be recognized around the league. But we're all here for one goal, and that's just a Grey Cup, So this is like icing on the cake, but we need it all. Yeah, he was excited about that, but at the same time, it's like we expect to have 5 guys or 6 guys recognized. That's what we're going into the season, and like every one of our players was right there. Cam could have been an all-star, Des could have been an all-star. So like we're not so, and Ciante too. Can't forget my guy. So yeah, we're not surprised, and that we're just excited, but right now, our head's just on winning, beating Montreal, and those things can be nice to look at after the season. Just mainly the locker room and how we all like bond together. Like that 2018 team was as close as you can be, and the 2019 team was close together too, and we got to the Grey Cup, and everything didn't work out perfectly too. So I just know the locker room wise, and we have a lot of guys who have been to championships and have a lot of experience in the CFL. So I think that's a big thing. It's just experience, and then there's younger guys who bring a lot to the locker room too. Trevor's very different from how Vernon plays. We know Vernon's a more mobile guy, likes to take shots deep. Trevor's more of a quick thrower. So their offense has changed a little bit, but they're still Montreal. They're still the same team. So, or they're not exactly the same team, but yeah, they're a better team than what we played before. And then we just game plan, and we expect to go out there and perform at a high level. They're a well-rounded offense. They have a good running back. I think he had the most yards this season. And then they have 2 of the top receivers in the league. So it's just they have a lot of weapons all around their offense, but we have a game plan for that stuff. And we played them twice already where it wasn't really those guys really killing us. It was ourselves making mistakes and letting them come back in the game and things like that. So we're going in this game confident, and just knowing that if we play our type of defense, Ticat D, we'll come out here with a W.
That is Tunde Adeleke as we spoke with him after practice today. All right, home field advantage. It's more than just a catchphrase. It means something. And it means something here in Hamilton. And the numbers back it up. Since 2013, the Ticats have led the CFL in home playoff appearances and home playoff wins. From 2013 to 2019, only the Calgary Stampeders have been in the playoffs more times than the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. And then if you want to include 2021, it's the 7th time the Ticats have made the playoffs in that span, the 8th time Calgary has. In terms of home playoff games, from 2013 to 2019, again, 2013 to 2021, Calgary and Hamilton have both hosted games 7 times in that span. And the Ticats are 5-1 at home since 2013. So home field advantage means something. And I'm going to play a little clip here. This is from today's episode of the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker, where RJ asked just how big of a difference, what does, from a player perspective, what does coming out to 25,000 screaming fans all dressed in black, what does that do? And I really enjoyed Luke's answer. Here's what he had to say.
It's very, very fun to experience that as a player as well. They'll be blacked out as well. Obviously, the Ticats. It's just a great energy in the stadium when everyone sort of agreed to be on the same team. 20-some thousand are saying, "Let's do this thing together." It is a very exciting moment. They do, they're doing cool, whatever promos or graphics on the jumbotron. I hope they have a great flyover. I love a great flyover before the game. But it's very exciting. It seems to me like in sort of a part of that blackout mentality that the Ticats are advertising that the fans are going to buy into. It just adds to a little bit of buzz and energy. And it sort of is another just reason that the crowd sort of gets really loud and into the game early on. It is kind of amazing how loud 25,000 people can be. It really is. It's a great energy on the field. We're watching when I was always lucky enough to be on the sidelines during that time.
Exactly. Offensive guy.
Yeah. So defense has to communicate too, but obviously as across North American football, the sound is adverse for the offense, right? There's more to communicate verbally. And I imagine, I'm kind of picturing what Simone Lawrence must feel like out there when his home crowd is going crazy, because offensively that's a little foreign to me, but it is exciting, and it was very, very fun to be a part of games like this blackout.
And that was a clip from Luke Tasker on a brand new episode of Ticats This Week, which you can now check out. Of course, he joins RJ Broadhead on that show, and while you're there, you can check out a brand new episode of Speaking with the Enemy as I catch up with TSN 690's Sean Campbell. All right, you heard the word a lot there. The key word today is blackout. If you email gameday@ticats.ca and you include the word blackout in the subject line, include your name and the city in which you live in the body of the email, you'll be automatically entered to win a pair of tickets to go see the Ticats on Sunday at Tim Hortons Field in the Eastern semifinal. Congratulations to Wednesday's winner, Larry Carver of Hamilton, who got Ron Lancaster. Thursday's show, Brittany Jameson of Hamilton. She had the keyword in Darren Flutie. Today's word, blackout. Put that in the subject line. GameDay@Ticats.ca, your name and the city in which you live, and they'll be automatically entered to win a pair of tickets. And to give everyone listening a chance, we'll pick the winner Saturday, noon. So it might be a quick turnaround. I don't want to hear if you're the winner, I can't make it. So we'll pick a winner Saturday at noon. So keep an eye on your email for that announcement. All right, mentioned RJ and Luke. They'll have the call right here on the Ticats Audio Network. They also got a brand new episode of Ticats This Week. Sean Campbell will have the call on TSN 690 in Montreal. And the man who will have the call on the CFL on TSN is Rod Smith. And very pleased to be joined by Rod now. And Rod, we were talking a little bit off the air. This is actually your first CFL playoff game in the booth. You got to be pretty excited.
Yeah, it's really exciting, Louie. I did my first CFL regular season game back in 1998. At the time, I was doing what was then called CIAU football, later CIS and U Sports. So Canadian University Ball. I did Vanier Cups. So I did playoff games and university championships for several years, but never a CFL playoff game. And, I've been such a fan of it all the time. When the games mean so much, it's really, got me excited to be up in the booth in Hamilton for the Eastern semifinal, Alouettes and Tiger Cats.
And it's such an electric atmosphere here in the playoffs. And I know you've broadcast from here on site before, hosting the panel. What are you expecting on Sunday? What are you expecting to see in terms of the game? Because, obviously Hamilton's confident and, I know what show I'm on here, but I think this is going to be a really tight game.
I agree. Close. Moderately scoring, intense. I don't think there's much love lost between these two teams. Between the two regular season games, August 27th in Montreal, which was 27-10 for Hamilton, a close game, kind of decided with a Frankie Williams pick of Vernon Adams that led to a Kalinic touchdown that kind of put the game away for Hamilton. So they won by 17. But October 2nd, there at Tim Hortons Field, a much different story with the Ticats having the double-digit lead in the fourth quarter and Vernon Adams leading Montreal back 3rd and 20 to Gino Lewis for the touchdown, takes a Bertolette field goal to tie it and force overtime, and Montreal won. Then I expect that kind of game. I don't know if the Ticats will get that kind of lead again on this Alouette team. I think it is going to be close right throughout the game and maybe come down to a late field goal to decide it.
Yeah, and, the tension will be high come Sunday afternoon regardless. But talk about William Stanback, because the Ticats have had success.
Yeah.
They seem to be one of the only teams that's found success in terms of slowing him down. Someone who's averaged 93 yards per game, except in Hamilton, where he had his lowest total and his third lowest total, How much of Montreal's success is going to have to literally run through Stanback?
I think a lot, and that's a really interesting storyline to this, balanced by the other key difference on that offense that I'm sure we're going to talk about in Trevor Harris being a quarterback now instead of VA. But with Stanback, that game in late August in Montreal, 12 carries, 40 yards, lowest output for Stanback this season. And I consider the second lowest to be in Hamilton, October 2nd, 12 carries, 59 yards. And I say that because last week against Ottawa, he was pulled out of that game early. So I don't think you count his stats from the season finale against the Red Blacks. They were sitting him. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, the two best jobs against William Stanback were both done by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And I think that's significant. And I wonder, with the different component at quarterback for the Alouettes, how that might change things and their approach to Stanback and their ability to stop the run. But it's a key storyline, obviously, heading in.
And you mentioned Trevor Harris, and Trevor Harris is probably going to try to erase the memories of the last time he was in this building, the 2019 East Final, then a member of the Edmonton Elks. But he has had success. Matthew Shinetti's been talking about this all week. He might be the best, first playoff game performer, if we can use that kind of stat. This guy shows up in the playoffs. He
does. And it's funny you mentioned up 2019 because that was with Edmonton. You're right, in the East Final. And it's actually the third straight year that Harris will have gone up against the Ticats in the playoffs, because harken back to the 2018 East Final in Ottawa when he had 6 touchdown passes, which I think either set the record or tied the record for touchdown passes in a CFL playoff game. A lot of success that day. So he's seen both sides of it. Ticats did a much better job against him in the 2019 East Final after Edmonton had crossed over. I've seen both sides of Trevor Harris, but certainly the successful one. And when he has time and he can throw those short, medium-range passes and pick you apart with a high completion percentage and balance that off with a running of Stanback, it's going to be awfully tough for the Ticats. Now, that said, I love Hamilton's defensive line. The push they can get with Laurent and Wint in the middle, and then you got Hauser and, of course, Jagarrett Davis on the ends. I mean, if they can get pressure, especially I don't know how much they'll be blitzing, but if they can get some heat on Trevor Harris, I think that changes things a lot. I mean, it's been shown. If you can get to him, if you can hit him, you get a lot of pressure on Harris. It does change the way he plays. So it's intriguing, this matchup between these two sides. And because, Louie, it really has a different feel to it because of Harris to me, how these teams do match up. It's going to be a little bit different from what Hamilton could expect from Vernon Adams.
It's funny because has brought this, Coach Steinauer has brought this up throughout the week. He goes back with Trevor Harris to 2012, as members of the Argos. And he talks about how he's a champion. He's been around champion teams. And when you look at the Ticats, that's kind of what's missing is that player with championship experience, right? Because when you look at this team, and there's a couple of guys on there, and I'm not discounting, some of the guys who are here, but you think of the key guys that have been, you mentioned that D-line, like this team is hungry. This team wants to win. And there's even more pressure because, 2 weeks from Sunday, there's a pretty big football game happening that they want to be playing in.
True enough. Although on that D-line, Jagarrett Davis, don't forget, Grey Cup with Calgary, beating Trevor Harris in Ottawa in 2018. So they do have some, but they certainly have quite a few, Louis, that have been there and knew that feeling and the disappointment against Winnipeg in 2019. A good chunk of the team is back from that and looking to take that next step. And it's an exciting time in Hamilton. I mean, I know they would have a couple of weeks ago wanted to win that game in Toronto and that the chance to not have to play this game and clinch home field, get the bye, and then be playing in the Eastern Final. But I mean, the road's a little bit different for them. It starts in Hamilton in the playoffs, and they want it to end in Hamilton. And Winnipeg, you know, they had to go on the road in 2019. They had to go to Calgary. They had to go and upset the Riders in Saskatchewan, and then they were underdogs against the Ticats. So, I mean, the blueprint is there. And, you know, the Ticats, I would assume, are slight favorites having home field in what's expected to be a close game against the Alouettes. But one game at a time for Hamilton. I know it's going to be tough to get by the Alouettes if they can. They're going to have a chance to avenge that loss in Toronto again, and they're going to have to in order to truly host the Grey Cup.
You mentioned that game in Toronto, and you know one of the factors of that game that maybe isn't getting the attention it deserves is there was no Don Jackson in that game.
No.
Don Jackson was back last week, and we saw what he can do, and he didn't really blow people away with his numbers. But there was something Jeremiah had said where it's just that extra yard, Mm-hmm. Second and 4 sounds so much easier than second and 7, right? And those were the yards that he was picking up. Can we attribute that game in Toronto? How much can we attribute, the loss of Don Jackson not being, and what kind of factor he can be in this game on Sunday?
I think it is a factor. I mean, he showed that he was injured and missed a lot of the season and then looked great in Edmonton, which started their run, I think, when they had a run of 3 straight after they had been struggling. I think it does make a difference. That's no disrespect to Sean Thomas Erlington or Malik Irons, who fill specific roles in that backfield, or Jackson Bennett too. But I do think that Don Jackson gives them something extra. But I don't know in that game in Toronto how different it might have been had Jeremiah been able to connect on some of those deep balls. I mean, their plan was pretty clear. They were airing it out. They were trying so many deep passes, and Jeremiah was 0 for 10 in attempts in that first half of 20 yards or more. And they weren't all on him. Jackson Bennett had a drop. I mean, there were, but I do wonder if they'd been able to complete 2 or 3 of those, how different it would have been, because it looked early in the game like that Toronto secondary was more vulnerable. And then it tightened up in the second half. But I think that was a big part of it as well. I don't think it was all on a lack of running game, but I do think that Jackson is one of those difference makers, and why it's that much more interesting for this playoff game.
And you mentioned Masoli, so let's finish there, because all week, all season, preseason, coming out of 2019, there's been the question, Jeremiah or Dane? And for some reason, it's still being asked. What have you seen from Masoli this season, and what are you expecting to see from him Sunday? Has he saved his best for last? Is he getting better as the season goes on? What are you expecting from number 8?
Well, the game in Toronto is the one exception that stands out for the negative, but everything else to me has been positive, and I still think he's the guy, and I like Dane Evans too. I think they have 2 good quarterbacks, and I know it was against a Saskatchewan team that had nothing to play for, but I do think that was a good game for Jeremiah Masoli to have, that first half that he played in.
Yeah.
To kind of make things right after the Yargo game. I thought he looked very good. And sure, you can qualify it that the Riders didn't dress all their best defensive players and everything, or didn't field them. I understand that, but I still think, they still had a good defense out there. And that was kind of a chippy game. That was, I don't think anybody was really taking it off the way you might expect. And I thought Masoli looked good. And I thought that Dane did too, through a couple of picks. But I still think that it's Masoli's job to lose, and I get it, because Dane Evans, that offense didn't miss a beat in 2019 after Jeremiah got hurt, and Evans looked great. I mean, they have 2 starting quarterbacks, and I don't know how much longer they're going to have this arrangement. I mean, this might be it, the next couple of games, if they can get to the Grey Cup. But I still think – I don't know how long the leash would be. If the offense is doing nothing and they're into the second half, then for Orlando Steinauer, it'd be an interesting question. When do you go to Dane Evans if Masoli is struggling? But I still think he can get the job done. He was actually my preseason pick for MOP. Obviously that didn't play out. And I based that on the fact that he looked so good before he got hurt back in 2019. And I thought he's going to jump in and, just take that job and run with it the way he did before. It didn't really work out that way. I mean, the start in Winnipeg and then in Saskatchewan when he got hurt. But he came back, Louie, in early October against the Alouettes. He looked good in that game, October 2nd, which we were talking about. They ended up losing. Montreal came back on that one. And 23 of 33 for 223 yards, but no touchdowns, no picks. For his first game back after a long layoff of, about 6 weeks, I still thought he looked good. I still, I would definitely not wait too long before making the change if he's really struggling for the first half. But because you have Dane Evans available. But I still think that he can get the job done.
And that's kind of been the topic du jour this week in the press box up here. Steve Milton and I were talking about it, that a 0-0 game at the first quarter where Masoli's struggling is a lot different than a 14-0 game after the first quarter where Masoli's struggling. So
I think so too.
You think there might be some sort of packages just to get something going?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder what Orlando's thinking about the scenario and what scenario it would take. But I agree with you. I mean, if it's a really close game and defenses are dominating and on both sides, I'd be surprised to see him pulled in that scenario. It would depend on, I guess, is he making mistakes? Is he making bad throws? Is he overthrowing open receivers? Is he throwing interceptions? Things like that. I mean, there are a lot of different components to going into that decision. But as said, it's more compelling because of the experience of Dane Evans and the fact that he's healthy and available if that offense falters. So I'll be intrigued to see how it all plays out.
Well, we're hoping that it doesn't play out at all and that Jeremiah comes out and dominates, at least on this end here.
Well, I know you feel the way Ticats fans do, and I do see that as a possibility. I mean, and I could see Trevor Harris playing very well as well. And maybe, who knows, even though the defenses, especially up front, are so good, who knows if we could have, a lot of points on the board. I mean, it was 23-20 last time. I think even more points can be put on the board this time. I'll be very, as we talked about, I still expect it to be a close game.
Yeah, I'm thinking everybody's been saving all their points for the postseason. Low scoring regular season, high scoring postseason. That's how it's going to.
Well, who knows? I mean, it'd be that kind of year in the CFL. I mean, it's certainly
exactly
it's
that
been
kind of year for
unpredictable
us all.
year, so.
Rod, appreciate you doing this. I am literally keeping your seat warm here at the high at the 7th floor at Tim Hortons Field. I'm looking forward to seeing you here on Sunday.
Thanks, Louie. Good to talk to you again. Looking forward to Sunday.
That is Rod Smith from the CFL on TSN, and my thanks to him for joining me. And my thanks to you for joining me this week as well. It's been a lot of fun getting set for Sunday's game. And remember, if you want to join us, you can enter to win by emailing Blackout in the subject line to gameday@ticats.ca. Include the name and the city in which you live, and you'll be automatically entered to win a pair of tickets to Sunday's game. By the way, if you like winning tickets through the Ticats audio network, you'll want to listen to all of our Grey Cup Festival coverage because courtesy of our partners at Swoop Airlines, we will be giving away airline tickets, round-trip flights for 2 to anywhere Swoop flies. We'll also be giving away Grey Cup tickets, as in for the 2021 Grey Cup. So if you don't have tickets to the game, you're going to want to be listening to the Ticats audio network throughout the Grey Cup Festival. Airline tickets, Grey Cup tickets. Why else would you listen anywhere else when we got it all right here for you on Ticats, the Ticats audio network? Busy weekend. You can catch more content. Ticats.ca. We'll have full scrums from tomorrow. Our first in-person availability of the season. It's been a long time, so very excited to see Coach O in person and ask him questions as opposed to through a video screen. But Ticats.ca is where you can find all the weekend coverage, and then make sure to join us on the Ticats audio network on Sunday, starting with extended pregame coverage with live Tiger Cats game day, Bubba O'Neill, Courtney Stephen on the air at 11 a.m., and you can join Andy Fantuz and I at noon for Ticats pregame presented by Active Green and Ross. Big weekend. Hope you have a fantastic Friday evening and a great Saturday. We'll see you here at the stadium on Sunday for the Eastern semifinal for the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie B. Hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today with Louie B. Subscribe, like, and get your Ticats fix every weekday.